Welcome to another episode of Tree Service Marketing Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Wesley Smith with treeservicedigital.com. And this is another interview with a business owner in San Antonio, Texas area, Scott Anderson, the owner of Urban Tree Company. And he's here to share his story today, how he started in the business and grew it. Scott, welcome aboard. Thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks so much for offering to share with the community and the tree care industry. Let's
Absolutely.
maybe talk about so you guys are in Texas, San
Yes, sir.
Antonio, and
Mhm.
how did you get started in the tree service business originally?
Completely backwards. So I was actually in Utah, Moab, Utah, and I was making things as an artist, right? Like a lot of stone, really, like stone jewelry, stone bowls, stone sculptures, and a little bit of wood. Spoons, bowls, cutting boards, that kind of thing. I mean, I started hand carving a lot of things using an axe. And Moab's interesting. I mean, it's a desert. People think about like, high desert, but it's this lush spring-fed valley. It had all these orchards. So, cherries, peach, apricot, walnuts, that kind of thing. So it's beautiful wood. And all the orchards were older. And so there'd be these little old ladies that lived on the remnants of an old orchard. And they'd be like, oh, I have this cherry tree, or oh, I have this walnut tree. Do you want it? And so I'd go and cut it down, that kind of thing. And my buddy was like, hey, I used to have a sawmill. I really want one. Let's split one. So we split buying a little portable sawmill and started milling stuff up, and that was going great. And then this guy was like, one day he was like, hey man, uh I've got this cottonwood tree. Do you want it? I was like, no. Like cottonwood, you can make some stuff out of cottonwood, but it's not the most functional stuff. And they're big trees. And he's like, well, I'll pay you. And I was like, "Whoa, okay." And at that point, I was a starving artist, and cash money, great. My background, so I do have a background in industrial climbing, rock climbing, that kind of thing. I worked for Greenpeace. I was like a climb safety coordinator and that kind of thing. So a large background in that. So really not outside my sphere of whatever. And right at that moment, what was happening was the two tree companies that were in Moab came out of sort of the logging era of that thing, and they both imploded. Crystal meth, alcohol, that kind of thing. And so they both disappeared. And it was like, okay, well, I guess I'm a tree company now. And we already had a lot of the tools, that kind of thing. I had a Bobcat, I think, at that point. And so it just kind of made sense. And so I spent a bunch of time studying, eventually took the ISA test. I mean, this is before, I mean, I was the only certified arborist for a couple hundred miles. I mean, there were a couple up in Salt Lake, a couple over in Colorado, but that was about it. And yeah, and we started doing, I mean, mostly a bunch of big, nasty cottonwoods over trailer parks. Um, and at the time, TCIA barely was putting some things out. ISA was starting to get going, but there weren't academies, there weren't people, and certainly not in Utah. Utah was still very Wild West. And so really just kind of piecing things together and figuring out how to run a company and you know, how to run tree crews.
What time frame was that?
That would have been like 2001, something like that.
Okay, early in the
Um,
century, I guess, is
yeah, yeah,
what we would say there, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right. And then we sold that company to our employees up there. I think they've since sold that to another guy that came from New Jersey. So that company's still running up there, which is kind of cool. It looks a little bit different, obviously, but yeah. And then had a couple kids, moved down here to be closer to some family, that kind of thing, and opened up. Well, we opened up a compost facility, which was a huge mistake. Got sort of outside the wheelhouse and definitely got smacked down doing that. And then refocused on tree work. And so building crews up and building our capacity here. We still have sawmills, kilns, wood shop. A lot of our focus moved off of furniture and that kind of thing into nature play. So, sort of nature-based playgrounds, that sort of thing.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, Moab. Is it Moab, Utah?
Yeah,
Is that how
yeah,
you, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
got a friend or two that they visited out there before and
yeah,
seen
yeah,
all the beautiful
yeah,
rocks and all the
yeah.
rock
Oh, it's
climbing things,
gorgeous. Yeah,
structures. I've always
yeah,
seen it and I've always wanted to go there. We've been
yeah,
to Utah several
yeah.
times, Salt Lake
Yep,
City, Park City, skiing,
yep,
things like that. And
yeah.
really cool, diverse state with lots of different things
Oh,
going
yeah.
on there. You got the
Oh, you got
desert,
the
you got the
mountains,
city.
river, desert,
Yeah.
skiing. I mean, there's a million things to do for sure.
Yeah. And then okay, so you guys decided I'm going to move down south to Texas, San Antonio
Yep.
area, be closer to family. And if you can recall, when you started Urban Tree Company there, or maybe
Hmm.
you hadn't started it yet, maybe it was just the other thing first. Take me through like how you kind of started it, bootstrapped it, because a lot of people may be thinking that right now. They're like, I want
Right.
to start my business, or maybe they just
Yep.
did. They
Yep.
need a little bit of encouragement, like how to get that
Yeah.
rolling,
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, with the business in Utah, I mean, I started with a MS 250. I mean, like smallest steel chainsaw that any normal person would even think about buying. And then just kind of built up. And it's like one tool at a time. I had a Toyota pickup truck. My buddy loaned me a flatbed trailer. And just, I remember getting my first chipper, and the Vermeer dealer came over and he's like, dude, there's not enough trees here. You can't afford a chipper. And then, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah, fuck you. And he came back and he was like, hey man, actually I got this really wealthy guy. He's got this 6-inch chipper and they're trading it in. It's been immaculately taken care of. It's been parked on this thing. And here you go. And I mean, I think I want to say we paid $6,000 for that thing. It's still running up there. We took really good care of it. And then, and just we got a dump bed trailer. We got, and just one kind of thing at a time, right? And eventually got big enough to, the credit union helped us out, the governor's office helped us out. We became a piece of the manufacturing there. But it took a long time. And then there's not a labor pool up there. You've got this sort of, it's like a Peter Pan kind of world. So you've got all these people coming for adventure. They kind of need a job, but they kind of don't. They mostly want to play. So that was really tough, like retaining, training and retaining people. And we were learning ourselves. Down here, we got started. I'd sold that business. I had a little bit of money and some experience and that kind of thing. We pretty much got waylaid on this compost thing. I mean, we had giant grinders, excavators, bulldozers. I completely lost my ass. But so then had to bootstrap this thing too. So, we had a semi truck that we chopped and put a truck box on, that kind of thing, and got going. And I didn't grow up here. I didn't know anybody here. And so really the easiest way for me to get started was just finding contractors, right? Finding general contractors and like, hey man, can I work for you? Can we do things? And we got really lucky. There was a large municipal project, massive, multinational general contractor was on this thing. And I had known him through the soil yard. He knew I was an arborist and he called me up and he's like, hey man, I'm in a pinch. He's like, I've got to have this parking lot cleared. We're going to demo this. They were rechannelizing this whole river through this thing. And my arborist that we always use just bailed on me. And he's too busy. He's going to be at the rodeo. And I was like, and at that point I still had grinders and excavator. We weren't fully transitioned out of that thing. And so I went as the Sawyer. I was like, so this was on like a Thursday. I was like, look, if you can get me through your safety program on Friday, I'll be there first thing Saturday morning. So he did that. We got set up. Saturday morning, I showed up with a small excavator, one of my operators, and a chainsaw, and we went to town. My semi driver pulled up at noon. We loaded a 90-yard rear eject and had that thing done by 1 o'clock. And he was like, "Holy shit, you guys are not playing around." And I was like, "Yeah, man, like I'm serious. Like I want to do this. We can make things happen." And so that word got out. San Antonio is a very large city. I mean, there's more people that live in San Antonio than all of Utah and Colorado combined, right? I mean, it's big. I mean, and geographically, this city is massive. It can take you an hour to drive from one side to the other on a freeway.
Sounds like
Um,
Atlanta, where I'm at.
yeah, exactly. Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Atlanta. I mean, people are like, oh, San Antonio, that's nice. It's cute. It doesn't get that. I mean, we're not as big as Houston, but this is a big, big city. And 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 so, but it's a small town in terms of contractors. And so word got out and this specific guy, love him. He's very nice, but he sort of had a different idea for his business and where he wanted to go in life and was kind of sort of abandoning a lot of his clients. And so we ended up just picking up and he was like we ended up picking up a bunch of his work and and then I saw it's like, wow, these guys, commercial work pays more. It's consistent. I don't have to, it's not influenced by the season. It's not influenced by the economy necessarily. Like this project that we were on had been funded 5 years before and was paid for, and so really it was an easy way for me to move forward and move through that world and just business to business. And you just see the people doing the work, call them up and be like, "Hey man, can I work for you?" And it really, I mean, the downside is cash flow, right? I mean, you're not getting paid for 60, 90, 120 days, those sorts of things. But yeah, that really kind of kicked it off.
So a couple things there. I
Yeah.
think the term, the harder you work, the luckier you get comes into play there. And that's what happened. It sounds like you started the business, you were eager, ready to
Yep.
roll, ready to work.
Yep.
And this opportunity presented itself when you started
Yeah.
networking with contractors and things like
Yeah.
that. He needed
Yeah.
somebody to fill in,
Yep.
excuse me, from getting kind of stiffed from his former arborist, or
Yep.
just, the guy went a different direction or whatnot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with the municipalities and the commercial work, like you said, you've got to be able to float the cash flow for a little
Yep.
longer, it sounds like.
Yep.
But
Yep.
you get more, I think, more revenue, more income, bigger projects. You just
Yep.
got to be able to float it. And I'm guessing once it becomes consistent and you start getting that work coming in, it's just a matter of managing the money from that point on because you've got the ones from 90 days ago coming in now, the payment.
It is. And so it's managing the projects, making sure that you have the capacity because a lot of these projects are big, I mean, we're kicking off a project that'll take 3 months. We've had projects take, 6 months of intensive, like one or two crews every day kind of thing. And so yeah, managing the cash flow, managing the projects, and but I like it and it has a real positive impact. A lot of these guys, and this is, too, regulations are changing, right? Like cities are requiring more and more tree protection. They're requiring monitoring. They're requiring arborists on site. They're requiring, watering. I mean, all these different aspects. And, part of what I learned down here, super grateful. We have an arborist association. There's really good, smart people down here. We hardly did any plant healthcare stuff at all whatsoever in Utah. I mean, we had some, iron chlorosis issues with some maples, that kind of thing. But for the most part, really not doing much anything, doing a lot of that down here and able to preserve trees. We've had massive drought, super hot days. We were talking about, before this started, the 100 straight or the 90 straight days over 100. And so really being able to make a positive impact and preserve trees and canopy has been really fulfilling for me as well.
Well, that's a big thing, I think, moving into the future too, is that like that urban tree, and this perfect name you have, Urban Tree Company.
Right,
So
right,
city
right.
tree preservation, in
Yep.
urban areas. And so what do you think percentage wise the commercial work versus residential work you guys do?
Easily
Yeah.
80, easily 80% commercial.
Okay.
Easily. I think, it's this weird niche where, I mean, I will say this. So our insurance is twice as much as what a traditional tree company, like a residential tree company, would carry. It's very expensive. The amount of paperwork. I mean, we just finished all the safety paperwork for a project. I mean, the the documentation is like a binder like this thick, three separate portals because there's the owner portal, there's the primary GC, the secondary GC. We're like fourth tier underneath a dirt contractor. So I mean, like it's massive. I mean, certified payroll. I mean, there's a lot of, if I did not have the office support that I do, I mean, my office manager is phenomenal. She's amazing, and I could never do that paperwork. I would
Gonna
lose.
say it sounds like
I
you got to
would
know your way around a computer
I
to
would
keep it
lose
keep
my
that going,
mind.
right?
And,
Yeah.
and, and really, you got to know your way around all these systems, right? Like municipalities have them, contractors have them. And so navigating pay portals and having all your paperwork in line. I mean, it's paperwork intensive, it's insurance intensive, and then it's safety intensive. I mean, this project that we're about to walk onto, they have 24-hour drone, AI assisted drone surveillance. So they are looking for, they've got these drones out there, monitoring vehicles, looking for safety violations, and it compiles it into reports for them. And so if they've got guys without helmets on, any of those things, like this is not like and so having crews that understand the importance of safety and they're willing to follow these things and be diligent about it. It's that takes a culture too, right? Of like, hey, we are going to be safe. Hey, you're going to be accountable. It takes a different kind of crew.
Yeah, it sounds like you kind of have to too in that world because they're monitoring things, and AI is going to, it's just
Yep.
going to create so much more efficiency where before human beings had to actually be there to see things for their own eyes, whereas now technology can knock some of that
Yep.
stuff out, and
Yep.
save a lot
Yep.
of time with different types of aspects of the company and the business. Well,
Yep.
awesome, man. That's great. So when you kind of started going, you got that first big project with that contractor, and you kind
Yep.
of stepped in and filled in for the person that he didn't have any longer. And from
Right.
there, it just kind of snowballed. Was it kind of
Yeah.
referral based and just you guys did good work? You did what you said you were going to do,
Yep.
and just kind of
Yep.
kept going from there, right?
That and then chasing, just seeing projects and chasing people down and LinkedIn was really helpful for that, like trying to identify, hey, this is the guy, and connecting with that person and trying to get them to let you bid their work. And it's tough because in these big projects, you're building a school, you're building, these massive, hospitals, whatever. Trees are kind of an afterthought. And so, it can be hard to get their attention until they have a problem. We've been through this with enough of our clients that now, having solved their problem, and that's really what it's about, right? Is are you solving somebody's problem? And so whether that's helping them deal with, the permitting, helping them deal with, the tree inspection process, survey process, that kind of thing. If you can solve their problems, then they start seeing, oh, you know what? I'm going to get this guy engaged right now before my project starts. Whereas in the beginning, we were coming at the end. They had a problem and we were trying to fix it. Now they're bringing us in the front end and getting us to help be proactive. And it saves them a lot of time and effort and speeds up their permit processes and that kind of thing. So just trying to figure out how to be invaluable and how to solve these guys' issues that come up.
Certainly, yeah, you get paid for your expertise. The more you learn and the more you know, and the
Yep.
more you've done that for other developers or massive
Yep.
contractors building out schools and
Yep.
different large scale properties like that.
Yep.
Take us through too, and you guys have a great reputation online. You guys have almost 250 reviews, 4.9 star rated, basically 5-star rating. Do you guys
Sure.
have any incentives or ways that you guys accumulate those reviews?
So the one thing that we do that I think really helps, and I read, it was like a book that like Davy Tree or Bartlett put out. It's like super thin book, kind of like your book, and I read that thing maybe 5 years ago, and one of it was just talking about really following up with the clients. And so we have an arborist who, part of their job is to call the clients, the next week and, a couple days later and say, hey, how did it go? Do we miss anything? Can we do anything else for you? And, a lot of times, I mean, our guys do that, but like, I mean, a lot of my guys have face tattoos and they're kind of scary, like, or the homeowner's not home or the GC, was busy and couldn't walk the job site, whatever it is, right? That sometimes there's a disconnect between the job is, my guys say the job is finished and the customer's happy. And so we have a friendly voice calling and saying, hey, how did it go? They're much more likely to tell her, hey, they messed this up. They broke my whatever, or, hey, I mean, it happens, right? Or they miss this. And so by catching those problems before it's a bad review, before it's they're ignoring us, it's like, yes, ma'am, we will be right out there. We'll fix your sprinkler. We'll take care of your thing, and really making the problem become a positive. Well, we broke this thing, but we took care of it. Wow, that was really nice. That extra thing. And then we used nice job. And so nice job has really helped get that in a format and we send that out. We've automated that now with single ops. So when that goes out, it goes automatically, and then they get this phone call and it really follows up. And so that follow up and that customer care, I think has really helped. And then and then back to that identifying the problem, right? Like, are we solving clients' problems before they even know they have a problem? And that I think too has helped. In the arborist world, there's different levels, just like there are with doctors, right? And there are a bunch of great tree companies here in town. Um, but there are only a couple few that are sort of on the more sophisticated side of, they can do PHC, they can do resistograph, sonic tree tomography, those sorts of things. And so a lot of times you've got guys who are just getting started. Maybe they're an arborist, maybe they're not. And their tool is a chainsaw. And so everything's like, we're going to cut it down. We get a lot of calls where it's like, hey, my friend said to call you. An arborist said to cut this tree down. I want to get a second opinion. And oftentimes we're like, hey, this tree is preservable. This is manageable. This is, that. And so I think that's really helped quite a bit.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That's really helpful. Thanks for sharing that. I think if you're watching this, leave a comment. If you got any questions for me or Scott, that's a
Yeah,
amazing nugget. I think if you that one step of calling the customers back, unless you're doing this massive volume of residential work or whatever, it's where it's kind of maybe like time prohibitive to call everybody back afterwards. But
right.
what you're doing commercial, those are bigger projects. You want to make sure the client's happy and you
Yeah,
didn't miss anything out in the
yeah,
field or the crew. But that one step I feel like puts out 9 out of 10 of the fires that would have started because you're being
100%.
proactive calling them. So if you have that capability in the office, we've seen
Yep,
it before too. Clients that call and ask for the review, you're going to get it more than likely when you do ask for it. And it definitely helps you as the business owner button up any gaps or problems that
yep,
you have out in the field with your crews, right? So that's
yep.
that's amazing. It's a great
Absolutely.
share. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Think that goes a long way as far as like the just like the perception of your company, right? It makes
Yep,
like these guys are
yep,
going to do right, no
yep,
matter if they did mess up a little
yep,
something. This
yep,
happens. It's human nature. Something's going to mess
yep,
up once in a while,
yep,
but they owned it. They called,
yep,
they owned it, they fixed
yep,
it. So you're still
yep.
going to get referrals from that, as opposed to getting this like mad as a hornet customer that's going to leave you a
Yep.
bad review and spread the word. What do they say? Bad news spreads like 10 times faster than good news, right? Or
Yes,
something like
I,
that. I
I
forgot.
would agree. I would agree.
So that's amazing you guys do that one step. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that.
No,
What
it's
other
been super helpful.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It keeps a pulse on your business too, kind of knowing what's going on in the
Yep.
field. Now moving along, like so you guys started growing this thing, right? You got
Mhm.
established in San Antonio, things started taking off.
Hmm.
What would you say were kind of some of the best ways that you were able to attract good employees and good team members for your business?
Hmm. That's been tough. That's been tough. I mean, I started with three guys that my buddy had on, his concrete crew that didn't speak English, that kind of thing. Like I didn't know anybody, I didn't know, in Moab, people found me. They needed a job. Like they just kind of found me, right? And so, training, getting people up to speed, it was huge. And honestly, twice we had to fire everybody in the whole entire company, like all of them. Just like, hey, you know what? Our company culture sucks. And I'm gonna get rid of all of these guys and completely start over. I've got one decent guy, I'm gonna start over. And so I think being ruthless with what I'm willing to accept of, I mean, not everybody's perfect and everybody comes into tree work with different skills, different habits, that kind of thing. But, just being like, you know what, I would rather not do these jobs, not whatever, than have guys that are unsafe or unprofessional or whatever. So that's been tough. And then we have the best pay package. I mean, we pay our guys better than anybody in town. We've got paid time off, paid sick leave, healthcare, 401ks. We've got uniforms that we pay for. We've got a whole uniform service. We've got paternity leave. I've got a guy taking off. We do 4 days of paternity or maternity leave. I got a guy taking off tomorrow to have a baby. They get paternity leave, a onesie, and a box of diapers and wet wipes.
Well, they'll
Uh,
need those, that's for
They'll
sure.
need those. It's not glamorous, but they'll need them. We do training, so we're really fortunate. San Antonio has twice a year arborist prep course. So we send guys, we pay for them to sit in the seat, pay for them to go there, pay for their test, that kind of thing. We do Monday meeting. We do TCI toolbox talk every Monday for safety. We do an arborist talk out of the arborist study guide. We do an operational talk. We have cell phone reimbursement. We have climber stipends. I mean, we really try to give these guys absolutely everything. And then we're integrated, right? Like our jobs, we don't have that fluctuation. We don't lay guys off. We don't, I've got a massive firewood operation going on out here. I mean, I think I got four guys bucking and splitting firewood right now. And so even, we get kicked off a job site because, something happened on the job site and they can't have us that day. It's not like the day's over for those guys. They can do maintenance, they can clean, they can go cut firewood. So, we've got consistent work. That really helps as well in a business that can be seasonal and fluctuate and that kind of thing.
Well, that's awesome. It sounds like just the right training, the right company culture, maybe branded uniforms and trucks,
Mhm.
and just that really
Yep.
professional image is going to attract that top tier employee to your
Yep.
business as well.
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
and and the benefits package that you had mentioned as well. So hey, if you're in San Antonio and you're looking for a good job, yeah,
Right.
give Scott a call, Urban Tree
Yeah.
Company. It sounds like you get all the benefits and
Absolutely.
things there. So
Yeah.
that's awesome, man. And so then also, I imagine too, the residential work can be a little bit slower during the winter months. So
Mhm.
with the commercial or municipality work, that kind of bridges that gap of the slow season, right? It kind of
Yep.
keeps you rolling because you got these bigger projects that take month, 2 months, right? Type
Yep.
things. It keeps you
Absolutely.
going.
Absolutely. No, it really helps. And I think that it's been a way for us to make plans. I know we had a massive snow event. People are talking about it might happen this year. We had a massive snow event, all this emergency stuff, and obviously like we're, not that far from Houston. There's hurricanes and that, I don't like getting pulled off track. I don't like chasing my tail. In the storm work, we said, you know what, we're not going to take on new clients. We're going to focus on our existing clients, consistency, because we were running around showing up, like trying to get people's stuff done. And then like they committed to it. And then 5 minutes later, some other guy showed up, gave them a cheaper price. I don't want anything to do with that, and even like the stuff that we do get from, people searching, arborists near me or whatever, if they're looking for three quotes, that just isn't us. We're one of the most expensive tree companies in town. By design, we want people that really want quality. They want customer service. They want, sophistication. They want real solutions. I'm really not looking for the client for bottom dollar. And so by having the commercial work, we don't have to chase our tails. We don't have to give people this massive discount to pick them up as a client to hope that maybe they're going to use us in the future. Those kind of things. Like we're looking for people that want us to be their arborist and building a relationship. I mean, that's really, building a relationship with the clients and that the phone calls are a big part of that. We give our clients gifts, all kinds of things. So,
That's great. That's good incentives to kind of
yeah.
keep calling and make that relationship stronger.
Hmm.
It sounds like too, like we deal with a lot of clients that do mostly residential, small
Right.
commercial.
Right.
And I think it's a good tip that you shared is to really start opening your horizons to maybe getting into more of the
Yeah.
commercial and municipality work. It's a
Yeah.
different world.
Yep.
You don't get paid
Yep.
the same day you finish the gig.
Yep.
It takes a little longer to get paid, but as long as you can manage that cash flow, the
Yep.
numbers are probably bigger and
Yep.
you can probably grow a little faster as long as you have a competent crew in place and you kind of know how
Yep.
to manage
Yep.
that type of
Yep.
work.
Yeah.
And there's all different types of tree companies out there. There's no right or wrong way
Yeah.
to do it.
Yep.
Some people like chasing those storms, and like you said, some companies don't, like you guys. And so it just depends on kind of, I think, your personnel, the way you're set
Yep.
up, and kind of what your
Yep.
goals are in the business. But for
Yeah.
you guys, you want to
Yep.
strengthen the relationships and manage those
Yep.
accounts to where everybody's happy
Yep.
instead of taking your eye off the ball for a couple of months to go make some money from the storm where everybody else kind of gets neglected that you've been dealing with, and you don't want that to happen, right?
Yep. Yep. No, absolutely. And I think for folks that are thinking about it, um, there's all kinds of different, I mean, we work for other tree companies doing some of their, more technical stuff. We work for a bunch of big landscape companies doing their more technical tree work. That's a good way to sort of dip your toes into those things because these big landscapers have large commercial accounts. You can kind of see how they set it up, that kind of thing. And then, custom home builders are real finicky and really tough. We don't work for a lot of custom home builders because they can be really tough to deal with. But if you find a good one, that's a good place to start. And then large companies that have large properties, warehouse companies, large facilities. That's another good place to start. And then general contractors. They definitely have a different depth of paperwork, insurance, all those kind of things that you have to deal with. But they're real practical. I mean, so that I guess that's one of the flip sides, right, is that you wind up dealing with people that are real practical. So you have a situation, this is a beauty, right? If you go out to a residential client and it's one way and you see it, they've got this whatever it is and the situation changes. Like they said, you could go through the neighbor's yard and now you can't, right? Or the alley was blocked off or whatever. They're still going to want you to charge them the same price. If you're on a commercial job and you don't have the access that they said that you were going to have and that's in the contract and that kind of thing, and it took you twice as long because you had to walk your guys through an entire building with a bunch of brush through the basement of something, right? Um, you sit down and you go, hey man, we got it done, but it took me twice as long because it's not set up the way that we said it was. Okay, man, here's a change order, you know? And that's the beauty. I mean, sometimes GCs fight change orders, but for the most part, if you go up front, hey, dude, I can't do this the way that we quoted this. I'm going to have a change order. Great, man, put it on time and materials or requote me or whatever. And so you don't get hung out, right? And so that's a really nice and they get problems. Like they're used to solving problems every day. And a lot of times on these jobs, it's like, hey man, I got a job coming up. It was a massive job. It took us 6 months, two dam rearmorings. We cut down, unfortunately, a bunch of 100-year-old trees that grew up since these dams got built. We've since demobilized. We pulled our excavators. We pulled all of our stuff off of that thing. I've got three trees that they didn't know were going to be part of the scope. They added it to the scope. This is years. I mean, this is 2 years ago that we got off this job. we're going to go next week. And I was like, look, man, you know, if you can bring an excavator down here and a loader, this is your price. If you can't, this is what I got, so they're going to come and they're going to come bring the machinery. That saves me the time and effort, that kind of thing. They save a couple bucks. It's nice to work with people that are solution
A
based,
little more flexible in that environment.
flexible and in problem solving mode. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, that's great, man. Those are
Yeah.
great nuggets. If you guys are getting value out of this, like and subscribe to our channel. We got more interviews coming up too. And Scott, I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're
Yeah.
probably half an hour into it. Now, once you guys started growing
Mhm.
and kind of getting going, were there any other kind of peculiar marketing strategies that you did to kind of continue that momentum moving forward or investing in
Mhm.
marketing as you grew a little bit? Tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about that.
again, like sort of business to business. So I'm a part of ASLA. It's the Association of Landscape Architects. Those are the kind of people that spec tree work on commercial jobs. ULI is another Urban Land Institute, is another massive, again, nationwide organization that's really interesting. It's multidisciplinary. So whereas ASLA is just landscape architects, ULI has developers, real estate agents, just all these different people from all walks of sort of development that then you can network with. And so that networking, that in-person networking has been massively invaluable.
That's great. So networking locally with these different associations where kind
Yep,
of your target type of client or customer is going to be hanging out at and
exactly.
may as well be there. You can share your expertise, talk about past projects, give them some ideas.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good way to kind of get in the door. I had one client or one guy shared on the podcast, not a client, just a business owner in Tennessee. And I shared this on a few other podcast episodes too, but he said he joined I think it was Nashville, the Nashville like Symphony Orchestra group or
Yep.
something. It was
Yep.
nothing but wealthy folks inside
Yep.
this association.
Yep.
And they
Yep.
all cared about the environment. They all cared
Yep.
about trees. There
Yep.
was hundreds
Yep.
of people that were members.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think they met either monthly or quarterly. And he said, I was just
Mhm.
the tree guy that was in there,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
got so much business from that organization. He said it was just amazing.
Yeah. You gotta go where the work is and where the money is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, great. That's awesome. So networking was a big thing. And so that started happening. Now you guys have probably wrapped trucks, I would assume, kind of rolling around billboards out there with your trucks with the stuff on there. Any kind of like radio or any kind of direct mail or
We
any sort
have
of other
tried,
tactics?
so we've tried a couple of the like local magazines, right? Like,
Mhm.
the lifestyle magazines. And I mean, San Antonio has super high-end neighborhoods that have their own magazines. That stuff was absolutely worthless. I mean, if you're advertising in the Dominion magazine and you get zero calls in 6 months out of the Dominion, it's like, okay, that was worthless. So we don't do any of that. I've thought about doing some mailers. I've seen some really cool mailers go out, but I don't know if that's saturated and that everybody's doing that. Um, we've sponsored some things. I think getting involved in the community. I mean, that's another thing is community involvement. Like you were saying, the symphony, we're involved with the botanical garden, we're involved with the arboretum, th those sorts of things. So being involved gets you a level of visibility. I mean, it's interesting. Like I get these ads, I think, because I like on Instagram, right? On my like personal account, like I get these ads for people's tree companies. And one, half the time they're like from Pennsylvania. And it's like, okay, man, like, like where are you
Yeah.
sending this to? And then it's like, well, you don't want to target people. I mean, sometimes you want to target people that like trees, but, I always think like, maybe you should just set that for like Porsche or Mercedes-Benz, people that like, people that have, that like things that cost a lot of money rather than people that like trees. You got to be where the money is. And so I think getting yourself into those rooms, and certainly ULI is a good one. Chambers of Commerce are another great avenue.
Hundreds of members, sometimes thousand.
We've had really good luck with some of that. The struggle, and I guess the struggle with all that is that that takes away from home life. I mean, there's a cocktail hour every night of the week for these things. And I mean, and they compound. So it does take a lot of like work.
Yeah, and maybe, in the early years, that's just something you sacrifice and you do to build up those relationships and get the name out there,
Mhm.
and then you kind of maybe scale back as you have a
Or
family
take
and
your rowdy kids with you.
there you go. Hey, sometimes that's even better because some people are like, "Oh, you got
Right?
kids." And it
Right?
kind of has like a talking
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
type thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's great, man. These are all really good tactics
Yeah.
to kind of get your name out there, grow, and do all those things. So, like, what's next for Urban Tree Company? Where do you see you guys going in 5 to 10 years?
So we're going to continue to scale up. I think growing the residential is a part. It's nice cash flow. We're expanding the firewood offerings. The nature play stuff is really taking off. Um, I think that to some extent we've saturated the sort of general contractor landscape. And so I don't know that there's a whole lot of growth there for us, except that as the regulations change, they're requiring more and more. So in the past, maybe I just cut a tree down for this guy that was really technical on his job site, right? But hopefully we're doing more of the tree protection, arborist monitoring, temporary irrigation, some of the things that in the past haven't been required and now are being pushed more and more necessary as trees become, I think, more valuable to these clients.
That's awesome. Well, this has been great, man. I guess one last question for you, just for people that maybe have, started their business or just need to be reminded that you
Mhm.
need that business owner entrepreneur grit to get through
Yeah.
some of these slow seasons type things. Like, what's some of the advice you give them? Maybe just think back of some of your early years when you were
Mhm.
really pushing things forward and trying to get out there and get known and get visible. Like, what are some of the things maybe that would help them maybe just continue on and believe in themselves and keep pushing?
I mean, I think like I used to beat myself up about some of the failures, right? I mean, there have been massive failures, jobs that went wrong, smashed stuff, underbid thing, all these things, and that was like at first that stuff kept me up, right? I'd beat myself, at this point it's like you just got to take those things as lessons and move on and then focus on the things that you are doing right and then creating systems that help you see it and then not being afraid, I guess ultimately not being able to not being afraid of having the hard conversations and looking at hard things, like looking at your numbers every single day and look at the bank account every day, look at QuickBooks every day, look at your jobs every day and have a honest conversation with yourself about like, can I afford this? Can I do this? Can I, and have that hard conversation with yourself. Because I think, sometimes we want to put our head in the sand and ignore the problems. And I think part of being an entrepreneur is just tackling the problem head on and trying to get through it.
Love that. Yeah, failure is only, I think, a failure if you quit. And so
Yeah.
it's instead of looking at it as a failure, look at it as learning experience.
Or don't, yeah, or don't learn, even if you quit, even if you're like, you know what, I'm not, there's so many different things that we used to do. I had this crazy machine that made flooring. It was horrible. I thought it was going to be the greatest thing. It was like being in I hated it. And so it was like, okay, done with it. Like you got to say no to things and you got to know when to throw in the towel on things that aren't your thing as well. Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I really appreciate your time, Scott.
Ah,
Scott Anderson,
thanks for having
owner
me.
of Urban Tree Company in San Antonio. Yeah, man, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. It's going to help a lot of people just hearing your story.
Great.
So thanks for hopping on with us today. You guys got any value out of this? Like and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment. Got plenty more coming up. And until the next video, we'll see you on the next one.